Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Andrew Conspiracy. We have myself, Mr. Andrew, and my lovely co-host, Mr. Do.
Rise and smile.
And to the conspiracy, we have brought Miss Cat Collette, one of our very good friends. But before we settle into this episode, let's just do as we normally do. We're gonna do a little breathing. We're gonna practice entrainment today. So it just literally means kind of synchronization in like a system. So it's going to bring our brains and everything in sync, and it's going to make this conversation that much more dialed in. And I think that's going to be great. So as per the usual, if there's any wiggles or anything you need to get out, get them out, and we'll just close down to the eyes and take a deep breath in and out, and in and out, and in and out. And one more. In and out. Oh yeah, that always feels good. And before we get started with Kat's intro, Dale wanted to share a poem with us. So
Yeah, since Kat is her interest is astrology, I found this one from Do entering New Year of Do, and this is called Love Letter to Omnipotent Cosmos. Words are inadequate to describe insight you give me from dawn to darkest night. When new moon shares no illumination, making all blind to their situation. But still I am filled with respect for you as I pass my brief time on planet Earth, where I've yet to find permanent true love, for whom I've searched since long ago birth. Which is not to say I've lacked amour, for I've had affairs with many females and turned great summits into great calm dales, but never found passion reaching my core, though I am patient enough to wait for my bride, even if she shows up late.
amazing, Dale. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. All right. This has been an exciting thing. We've been building up to this for 35 episodes, and now it's here. We have our first official guest with us on the conspiracy, our good friend Kat. We met Kat through the same group that we met through Gabby Kovalenko's online community. And then somewhere along the way, Kat decided, I want to connect more. And so we started meeting in between Gabby's meetings and talking astrology and life and all these good things. And it's always been such a pleasant experience. And, to talk with Kat, she brings such a wealth of knowledge and her own unique perspective on things. And so we're here, we're happy to share that with this conspiracy.
And I'd just like to say that although her focus might be astrology, the thing that really has attracted Kat to the conspiracy is like the deep thoughts and like using astrology as a springboard to deeper meaning rather than just calling it to like predict the future or whatever.
Oh, thanks, guys. Thanks so
Yeah.
much for the lovely
So
intro.
yeah, I just want to hear what's alive for you. What's like the thing that's most percolating in Kat's mind this morning?
Wow, today, thank you so much for the invitation, by the
Of
way. I
course.
feel really honored to be your first guest. Um, today, well, today Saturn, the planet Saturn, is actually like still in the sky. It's like stationing, it's been retrograde and now it's actually turning direct and it's heading towards like through these last few degrees of Pisces, where it's going to meet with Neptune on the other side of the 0 point at 0 degrees of Aries early next year. So that's kind of what feels alive for me right now. Saturn is like conjunct with my North Node right now, so Saturn's really alive in my system. And I've done quite a few deep dives with Saturn over the years, but I feel like right now I'm yeah, learning a lot more about myself from Saturn. And I think that Saturn's going to be quite prominent as a frequency in the collective right now because of the stationing direct in Pisces. So, yeah, there's quite a lot I could say about Saturn, but
So yeah, just for Andrew and those less familiar with astrology, I mean, what's the meaning of Saturn going direct at this point?
so when a planet becomes like stationary in the sky, like from our perspective, it's always moving, but it looks like it's still in the sky from our perspective, then it's the frequencies are just more animated, like they're more like we might feel like they're more alive in our system and like kind of louder in terms of like all the planets are basically from my perspective, they're showing us how we're playing the game of life, like how we're playing the game of illusion of separation from ourselves, where we believe that we're separate. And Saturn is a really key player right now with Neptune as well. They're quite prominent in the astrology. Saturn shows up in so many different ways. It's related to structure and framework and like stability, like hierarchical kind of structures, like with a top down. It's related to like authority, like our inner authority, or where we outsource authority. In its highest aspect, it's kind of like radical inner authority. Um, and it's also about how we handle responsibility, like practical matters, pressure, that's a big one. Our ability to, do we try to escape the pressure like that we're perceiving? Like when we're feeling under pressure, can we hold that and use it as fuel, kind of go beyond where, we feel the squeeze, but we know that it's kind of forging like an inner diamond, like inside of us.
Right.
And if we can hold that pressure and that stress, like how do we operate when we're under that? Like Saturn shows us, where we perceive that we're being squeezed or controlled or blocked or limited by something external,
Hmm.
which of course is an illusion, but we don't experience it that way at the 3D level. So it can show up like wherever we're feeling those frequencies internally, that's quite often connected to Saturn. But Saturn's also about like commitment in a way that's not like well, it can be connected to commitment in terms of obligation and duties and all that kind of thing. But for me, it's more about like constancy and consistency, like being consistent, being persistent, discipline and focus and patience in so like when you combine like the pressure and the constancy and the consistency and you put it together with the framework, it's about shaping and forming and conditioning and kind of containing and holding as well. Where we, but Saturn shows us, like individually and collectively, like where we've already been shaped and formed and conditioned by external things, like through, you know, society, basically, like everything's
Right.
built on external rewards and punishments and external, like we do things, we're kind of conditioned to do things to behave a certain way so that we can be accepted and so we can get approval and praise.
Have you seen the movie Into the Wild?
Oh, long time ago, yeah.
Yeah. We watched it last night. And Dale was so thoroughly disappointed at the end. But like you were pointing to like, this character, right? He rejects the wealth of, his parents offer him to buy him a new car at the beginning. He's like, no, my car's fine. And then he, after he graduates from this college with this, advanced degree or whatever, he just basically abandons his all and just goes off into the wild, right? He's had this plan. He just pieces out. And I don't know, like I guess I found the movie very appealing because it appeals to my like sense of just wanting to like be free and kind of lose all attachments except for the ones that really want and to also like not be reliant on these structures, these systems of society. He's very much rejecting society. And so I don't know if that's playing out a little bit more or if there's anything in alignment with that. But he was just like, what was the point? He died.
Well, to defend, to not necessarily defend my position, but basically, I was very disappointed because at the end, I meant spoiler alert, but basically he dies with a smile on his face, but to me, he didn't overcome anything, he just went insane. And it basically, I mean, to me, this is like the hero's journey wasn't completed because he died, and that's not a hero's journey.
Right.
And so I mean that's what I felt, and basically he died smiling at God, but basically in my reality, God wouldn't let him die. I mean, God would like return him to society so that he could enlighten, people after his journey. And to have him just like die with, gaping at God, it's like, I mean, Sean Penn wrote the screenplay, and I think this is like a reflection of his negativity. It's just like, uh, well, I've expressed myself, but that's where Andrew and I basically disagree is because he built up such a like fountain of hope for this guy, like to go back into society and claim the girl and to make peace with his parents and everything, which he does when he's dying, but what good is that? They never knew that. And so like I really thought it was like a reflection of Fred's negativity, of Nietzschean negativity, which Sean Penn has always been accused of. But basically, to me, it was like a godless ending.
Yeah, it's almost like like the writer disappeared and they didn't know how to end it. And so they just, like
Well,
I remember in school once, I wrote an essay. I used to be really good at coming up with ideas, but I could never end them. And I remember once I kind of lied and I just got to the bottom of the page and I handed it in and I kind of blamed the teacher for losing the end because I needed to pass something. And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to go to hell for this. But it reminds me of that. It literally feels like they didn't, you know, maybe have a good idea to how to end it. But speaking to the idea that he was rejecting society and societal rules, I think that's the way that you would, that's, like instead of like just trying to escape it, I think that you can just almost, because there's like different levels of experiencing rules and regulations. Like at the third dimensional level, we see rules and regulations, and Saturn's very much around societal expectations and what like the traditional way of doing things and what's expected. And
on
so,
Thanksgiving, a day filled with tradition.
exactly, right.
Yeah.
Oh, it's today, right? Is it today?
Yeah.
Yep, yep.
I
Wow.
love that she doesn't know. She is Canadian, by the
Yeah.
way, just
I
for
mean, well, I'm
clear.
from England, but I live in Canada. But yeah, I knew it was, I knew it was now, but I forgot. But I think that when we reject something, we're almost going to get stuck in a manifestation loop with what we reject and what we judge and because what happens is, because our external world is literally an extension of our being. It's not separate from us. I think it's an illusion. Like I know that I don't always believe that 100% because that's how I perpetuate the game. Otherwise, I can't live here in 3D. But that's the way I see it. And so if Saturn's going to show us where we perceive that our external world is separate from us by bringing us things like to show us the contrast, to show us that we've forgotten who we are. And so if we're going to reject the rules and regulations, or we're going to fight them, or we're going to be like a rebel without a cause, and we just want to be a rule breaker, then I think or we run away and go and live in whatever. I mean, that's just a choice to go in. I'm not saying that that's wrong, but like if you are trying to escape it, then energetically, I think you're just going to create more feeling of oppression and feeling like you're kind of stuck in you're stuck in that situation. But if you just think, well, rules are not just to be followed. Like we can create our own rules. Like we're creating our own entire reality. Our consciousness is projecting it out. So we get to make up our own rules. And that's what I think, Saturn, especially when it crosses the 0 point into Aries, it's about, recognition. It's not, I mean, you can see Saturn's also about taking ownership, taking responsibility in the way that we understand it as blame or owning up to things. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about claiming ownership of the reality that
Sovereignty.
you're creating. Yeah, it's the highest level of sovereignty. And so for me, Saturn's like, it's like the builder of structure, but it's about the quantum builder, like the quantum architect of your reality and becoming like taking ownership of that because it's your own universe. And so, and the chart is like the structure of your consciousness, like from one perspective, in time and space that your soul chooses. But we're not just that one perspective, we're all of it, but we're experiencing one perspective right now, in our human avatar is experiencing one perspective of source, but thinks that it's separate from it, but it's not. It's an extension of our being from that point. That's the way I see it. And that's the truth that I'm still anchoring into. I'm not like, I kind of forget and remember and forget and remember that. But
Well,
Saturn
you
shows
make that
us,
forgetting is interesting because you mentioned it, right? It's how we kind of perpetuate the game. And I've expressed that as like friction or something like that, something to like move against. And it does feel like a necessary part of this experience. I don't like, and so perpetuate, I mean, how do you feel? How do you feel that interplay, like to have it move pull you forward, or how can we use it, I guess, to not get distracted by the forgetting or something like that? Is there like an in-between
yeah,
state, I guess, is what I mean, can we hold both
well,
as we're navigating?
contrast, like the contrast in Saturn's really about like density, it's about heaviness, gravity, like the darkness, like the darkest of contrast. And it's also about separation. And so if we have, the more conscious a relationship we have with the present moment, the more we can kind of see how our external world, our own field is communicating with us always. Like it's like source is talking to us all the time. And because it's showing us everything that the frequencies that everything that's going on in the background that we don't know. So we like if we don't value ourselves, we're going to attract people and situations that don't value us, and we just think that we suck. We just interpret it as exactly like they're just confirming this limiting belief
Right.
I have about myself. But when you flip that on its head and you say, you know what, this is just literally a neutral reflection. It's not a confirmation of my lack of worthiness because I'm attracting all these people that treat me like shit and don't value me. They're just reflecting what I believe. And so when we change the internal belief, so your question about how do we use that is the realization that what you're being shown is a reflection of your frequency, not your worth. It's just a reflection neutral of your frequency, and it's showing you what you believe to say, hey, you forgot who you are, like you think that you need something outside of you right now. You're perceiving power outside of you, or you think that you need to get value. The people are only showing you what you believe to be true or possible or whatever, I think. That's been my experience. And it's the only thing that
Yeah.
kind of makes sense to me because I'm getting so much more evidence of that now. So the more you can stay present when you're in the thick of it, when you're in the thick of it and you're just like, holy shit, like what's going on? Like this is brutal. Even if there's just a part of you that can, even, I mean, if somebody came up to you and said, this is all happening for you, you might just tell them to naff off, right? You just be like, this is like not helpful. But if you even can just think that it might be possible. It just opens up a little bit of a question like, well, if you're showing me something I need to see, what is it? Why is this happening? You'll get more information. And so, but we usually don't think of that. We just like want to run away from it. We want to escape.
Right. Well, you
Right?
you illustrate almost like a baby step, right? To make the
Yeah.
next thing. Because we were even talking about that. We were talking about affirmations and how they feel kind of weird after a while. Well, it's because they're supposed to. They're a tool to start to work on your self-talk and actually have it be something useful, right? And meditation, you don't have to meditate your whole life every day. You just need to learn how to ascend and descend the ladder of consciousness so that you can do it sort of at will. And I think,
but also create a space of silence in your mind. That to me, that's what meditation's really all about.
but again, it's a step in the
Right.
direction, right? As a way to practice and refine like this, how to attune the device is kind of how I think about it. And
Yeah. It's like present moment awareness, basically.
yeah,
And when
yeah.
even if you don't really know what that means, like, because sometimes, we just say or do something and we're like, oh shit, I probably could have handled that better, or I wish I hadn't have said that. But when we just even being aware that we've done it, if we can just slow down time and just stay really present and not abandon ourselves when when we're triggered, like if we can stay with ourselves, it's it helps you to understand why it's happening. And also, the one thing that's really helped me is even if I don't know why it's happening, I don't know why is this happening to me. If you can remember this, remember to just feel it fully in all its glory. Like try not to push it away. Try not to escape it or try, like sometimes we just want to run away from it. And if you can just actually, it's almost like a portal when you go into the feeling and feel it fully. It's like the feeling itself, the frequency shows you its essence, and you get to experience. It's like because you're experiencing the dense end of it, but it's kind of opens up like a spiral, and you get to see more octaves of it. It's like the feeling shows you the gift that's in it. And what's really good about it is that it's actually the portal to the where you're trying to go. Like you're trying to, there's a desire that you have that you might be aware of, or you might be just running in the background, but there's something that you really want. And the thing that's happening to you in that moment truly is happening for you, not just because it's just toughening you up, but because it's actually the exact thing that you're going to need for the next level of magic. That you just, when you go through this portal, you're going to understand why the whole lesson happened. And that's another thing I've learned from Saturn, like these lessons. There's just, there's a gift in every single thing. And even if you're just open to the idea, if you're just like, I can't see any freaking gift right now, but I'm just open to the idea that it might be, and I'm going to feel this. And I mean, what else are you going to do?
Right.
Really, right?
No, we've tried all the other things. None of them work. The surrender is like a pretty key part of this equation, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so I think we might have brought this up, but this is like my new equation for reality. And that is simultaneity leads to insanity without spontaneity. And basically, what I feel is to be in the present, fully in the day present moment, you have to immerse yourself in the quantum soup and let yourself learn how to swim. And that's what the and simultaneity is like the fact that all quantum realities are converging at every moment. Every nanosecond, every possible reality is being presented to you. And if you if you try to consider every possibility, you're going to go insane. And that's the simultaneity leads to insanity without spontaneity. And spontaneity is the secret sauce. Spontaneity is how you can navigate between infinite possibilities of reality in any deal moment and maintain your integrity of self.
Wow. I love what you just said there. That's amazing. And and everything is here and now.
Right.
Everything, because everything is frequency. That's the thing. Like this 3D reality that we're in. I know it feels real. It's just like, yep, this is real. But it's actually our primary state is frequency. Like we're pure consciousness energy. Like this is like, like a scientific thing. This is not just like some BS. Like this is actual physics.
This comes from science, y'all. Watch
Yeah,
out.
yeah, yeah. And I'm not a scientist, but we get to this is the other thing that we can do if you want to take it a level up, like you can just feel the feeling that's moving through you because you need to understand why it's happening. So the best way to find out is to feel it. But get this, you can actually choose a new state of being. And when you feel it, you actually get to see what the higher octave is. And if you can't see it, you can just, because we choose our state of being, it feels like people are making us feel a certain way, but they're not. They're activating things that are already in us. And when you know that everything is here and now, and you know that your external world is literally an extension of your being, but all the frequencies of your universe all converge down into one point in the very center of who you are.
And that's the present deal moment.
Yeah, that's where everything is. And all we each have our own 0 point in the very core of our being, but it's all the same point. That's what we're all the same thing. Everything is here and now, and all of this that we're projecting out is the holographic universe that we're experiencing. It's our playground. It's where we get to play the game of life.
So I have a question about that. So correct me if I'm wrong, but basically you say that the birth point of every chart is like the 0 point for the person. Is that correct?
Well, that's the way I see it. I'm not saying that that's
Okay.
how it
Oh,
is, but
so
that's the
so
way I see it because every chart has the time and location of your birth, like, when you have to put the data in to get your chart up. So what you have is you have a map of one perspective of source, like one angle of source from like the exact place that you entered into this incarnation, where you entered through the womb and you came in. That would, for me, is the center point of the chart. And everything that's above the horizon, the ascendant and the descendant, that's like your observable reality at that moment. And so it's, if you imagine that, like everything that's, because we have to believe that we're separate when we're born, like we literally separate from the mother, right? We go from this oneness and connection to all that we are as source. Like we don't know what it's like to, we don't experience lack when we're in the womb. Like that's where we experience connection to ourself as source, but we don't know there's another layer of the universe outside of that. Like we're only aware of the
right.
matrix. And so when we come out into the next one, we have to believe that we're separate from 3D reality. Wouldn't work if we didn't believe that we were separate, right? So we have to have this sense that we're a boundaried, this is Saturn. It's about boundaries and separation. And we have to believe that we're separate. Otherwise, we're not going to go after anything. We're not going to, we need to have a desire, and that needs to come from the perception that is lacking. And that's how creation works. And so, our human thinks that what we want is not here, but our self as source, the version of us, the bigger one that's kind of enveloping us, the next layer of us knows that everything exists, but it exists as a frequency only. Like that's the primary state. Everything else is, what we think we want. We think we want a thing. We want money, or we want a person, or we want a situation, a job, or whatever circumstances. But what we're truly seeking is a state of being. It's a frequency. And our soul knows that that's available right now. But we're like out there looking for it, thinking that it's out there, but it's actually what's everything that's out there exists in here at the quantum level, at the here and now level as a frequency. And so that's how I use astrology. It's kind of like
Right.
the chart is just like a
So
map. It's like a tool for my imagination to create and, find frequencies.
I just had a question about Saturn and everything. So basically, what I've picked up from what you're saying is that basically Earth is arriving at that reset point with Saturn going from Pisces to Aries, and plus Pluto in Aquarius and everything. And so I am just going to be esoteric for a second, but Capricorn
Mhm.
is Saturn's main planet, right?
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
so now that we move from Capricorn into Aquarius with Pluto, what significance does that have with Saturn, its ruling planet, going to the 0 point?
Yeah, and it's really cool because they're making this beautiful kind of triangular formation in the geometry as well. Like Saturn, when Saturn moves into Aries, it's going to be forming what's called a sextile with Pluto. And Pluto is forming when Uranus was just in Gemini and it just went back into Taurus, but it's going to be in Gemini. And so Pluto and Uranus are forming this trine aspect, and Pluto is being ruled currently by Uranus. It was being ruled by Saturn, like you said before, when it was in Capricorn. I don't like using the word ruler, but I know that's what people understand. And so Saturn and Neptune going this slowdowns back and forth over the 0 point, they're forming like the midpoint of this beautiful kind of trine and two sextiles, like with these outer planets, while Saturn and Neptune are going over the 0 point. And this is the first time that this has happened in our lifetime for Saturn and Neptune. They come together every 36 to 37 years, but all over the zodiac, different places. Like the last time was in 1989 at 11 and 12 degrees of Capricorn, and that was ruled by Saturn. And that's literally when the Berlin Wall came down and Russia collapsed and all of that stuff. And so that was like a literal kind of physical manifestation of that conjunction. But every time Saturn and Neptune come together, if you think that Saturn is about structures and Neptune is about more about dissolving structures or dissolving boundaries, which are elusive, but it's literally we experience at the third dimensional level where we do have boundaries and walls and stuff. That was like a literal manifestation of that transit. And so Saturn and Neptune come together in all different points around the zodiac, but 0 degrees of Aries is a big one because, and I, that's why when I did that interview with Julia Balaz, we talked about that. There's a video. I can give you the link for that one if anyone wants to watch it. It's not on my channel, but it's on her channel. And we talked about when I got kind of obsessed with the 0 point for a while. Like I mean, I still am, but I wanted to know when Saturn and Neptune were here before. I wanted to know when they were at 0 degrees of Aries before. And then so I went back through thousands of years, like literally like through the whole precession cycle. And even like I was able to identify when, the previous precession cycle, which is like, 25, 26,000 years. I went because I identified the patterns and all these patterns started to emerge, and some of them were big patterns and some of them were small ones. But I think this Saturn and Neptune conjunction, but the fact that it's in with Pluto, like you were saying, and also with Uranus in this configuration, I think this is like a whole new level of consciousness that we've never experienced before. That it's like a whole new like 0 degrees of Aries. It's like a whole new. If you think of like 0 degrees of Aries, it's the end of a cycle and also the beginning of a cycle. It's like the
The
last.
reset, the big reset, right?
Exactly. I mean, cycles are kind of an illusion too because they're more like a spiral. But if you think of the whole of the zodiac, like from the beginning of Aries to the end of Pisces, there's like this sliver in between Pisces and Aries. And if like at the end of Pisces, which is kind of associated, like with Neptune and dissolving and going back into like merging into oneness and like dissolving all boundaries and becoming one with source. And then if you think of that in terms of like an incarnation, like when we die, literally when we die and we become aware of the totality of who we are as source, like we blend, like dissolve into oneness or merge into oneness or whatever. It's the same point that we have to also forget it all to start a new cycle and be born and forget that we're source and start a new game of illusion of separation. So they're the same point. And so just that degree, let alone how it relates to the core of the earth, that's another whole story. And I talked about that with Julia, the 0 point. But for me, like Neptune, if you think of Neptune and Saturn and you bring them together, it's like you've got the illusion of separation, like in Pisces, at the end of Pisces, it's like dissolving the illusion of separation. And that's literally what's happening on our planet right now because I see my external world literally as an extension of my being, but not all the time because I'm human, I'm an avatar, I'm like, I'm experiencing everything as separate. But I know that it's not at the same time. It's like, I think what we're able to do with this conjunction seems to be indicating it's not the conjunction that's doing it, we're doing it, it's happening inside of us. It's holding the duality. It's like having one foot in Pisces and one foot in Aries and holding the duality that we're source and we are all of it. I am it all, but I'm human experiencing the illusion that I'm separate from it at the same time. It's holding the awareness so that when we get triggered and we experience contrast, there's a part of us that we feel that's excited because it's like, okay, now I get to transmute frequencies. I get to I get to play with the contrast rather than what we do as just at the human level is we try and run away from it. So when you know that it's an illusion and you know that your system's showing you how you're playing the game of illusion of separation, then you can hold the duality and you can see what your system's trying to show you without collapsing. And you can hold the kind of holy shit, this is brutal, but I know that this is happening for me. I don't know how or whatever, but if you just remember who you are at the same time as you're kind of forgetting and remembering and you know that you can choose a new state of being. It's like you're not bypassing anything. I'm not, I don't think we can bypass. I think that's bullshit anyway.
No,
You
we've
know what
all
I
been
mean?
triggered
But
by
we're
this.
not bypassing anything. We're not saying, oh, I don't like the state of being. I'm just going to choose a new one and we're pretending. It's not about pretending. It's about feeling how brutal it is. Because you know it's an illusion, you're able to do that. And it might bring you to your knees, but you know that this is one thing that I've really learned from Saturn is that when you can hold that pressure of that, like it literally, and you know that everything's happening at once as well. And that's another thing that I've learned from Saturn is that everything's happening at once and time is an illusion. That the way you want to go, like, is here. And so it's available as a frequency and you can choose it at the same time as you're feeling the other one. But I don't think I answered your question about Pluto in Aquarius, and I want to get to that.
Well,
Does
that's
that make
okay.
sense?
So basically, one thing you have to bear in mind is that you ask for the brutality you're going through to make you a bigger person, to reach a higher self. And I think that's something a lot of people have like trouble taking accountability and responsibility for. And so I mean that's basically to me what if you're in the present day moment, then you don't think about the brutality. You're just like experiencing. And
True. But I've been there. I remember when I first heard that term, we create our reality and everything, and I was in the thick of victimhood and experiencing like people being really mean and all this. And I'm like, you want me to take responsibility for that? Because it felt like I was like letting them off or something. And I'm saying, oh, why would I choose to have a horrible life? Like that's bullshit. And so I rejected that idea, but I didn't understand what it meant. I just thought it meant taking ownership and responsibility meant like claiming that you did it. You're responsible for it. And it's not about that at all. It's about stepping into sovereignty at the very highest level, really. And there's an infinite number of levels of that I'm discovering. But where we feel that powerlessness also, and this kind of plays in with Pluto in Aquarius for me, and I could talk all day about that too, but basically what Pluto in Aquarius, it's kind of like powering up the network, and with every single one of us as like nodes in the net, we're all like in our sovereignty, we know who we are. That's how we power up the network, is by each one of us, like, we know that we're part of the whole net. We know that we're oneness. We know that we're all everybody's source, but we are claiming our individual node, that like where
Right.
we're experiencing it from. And we're claiming ownership of that, and then if everybody does that, it all lights up like a Christmas tree. And so that's Pluto in Aquarius. But in order for us to get there, we have to kind of let go of this old tribal mentality, which is based on conformity and fitting in. Like, I mean, if we went up against the tribe in the past, we would get us killed. Like if you share ideas against, you get ostracized, and people, make you feel like you're crazy, and they gaslight you and stuff. And like I've experienced a lot, a lot of that in my life. What people
Yeah.
think that I'm nuts, and I haven't ruled it out. I might be completely delusional, but um, but
Haven't
I
ruled it out.
when we feel like we have to conform, and that it's the tribal mentality that's based on fear,
Right.
instead of we're moving to a place where it's going to feel safe to disagree, because we recognize the sovereignty in everybody, and allowing them to hold their perspective of source as well. And it might be different to ours, and it might be completely opposite. And we might be like, holy shit, I can't imagine where they got that from. But this is their sovereign perspective of source. And if I
Well,
can just allow them to have it, then, and see the divinity in them, then I don't see them as separate from me. They're kind of elements of me in my own
right.
universe.
Well, this is actually Andrew's big field, but aren't we talking about everybody basically reaching Christ consciousness? I mean,
Yeah,
isn't that what the reset is? Just like the whole collective, like making a quantum leap into a higher consciousness. It's totally unprecedented and unplanned, but that's really where we're headed. I mean, that's what I feel. I think that this starting point at Aries zero, where Neptune and Saturn cross, I really think is like a big collective upscale, upgrade to Christ consciousness. And once we reach that, then everything that was before is going to be irrelevant.
yeah, I love that. I agree. And
And that's what the conspiracy is all about, actually. I mean, in my opinion, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
and whether you call it, Christ consciousness, I mean, Jesus was, apparently said that the kingdom of heaven exists within each and every one of us. And I think that's basically saying, because we externalize power, we externalize God and separate God from us. And I think that when we realize that we're all fractals of God, and we're all creating our own micro version of the universe from where we are, it's just part of a massive symphony of divine orchestration. But everything outside of us is us. And so we are God. We're a fractal of God, but we're not all of it, but we are all of it simultaneously. We're experiencing it from one perspective.
Yeah.
But it's not
So
all that we are.
how do you think astrology helps you, like, because we talk about all these different things that are pointing to it, right? I mean, I think, isn't that the idea? Religion, ancient texts, astrology, they all have this thing that they're pointing to. And I guess I'm wondering how, like, someone like me can use astrology to better understand the truth of who we are.
Yeah. Um, well, one thing I think that astrology can feel very disempowering to people, like the old paradigm of astrology is where, somebody's going to read your chart and tell you all the things that you don't know about yourself so that and that's like externalizing your power straight away. It's like to somebody else giving you, you know, a forecast or whatever, I think is actually disempowering. And I think that the best way to, the way that I learned astrology was completely backwards to everybody else because it's upside down completely. Actually, kind of came in a bit of a time of crisis, but astrology is basically like when you know that it's a map of your own consciousness and that your soul is it's like the codes of your soul. You're experiencing your chart doesn't, I mean, it's containing the macro part of your reality, but it's everything down to that dot. It's not just the planets that are in the chart. It's the whole of all that is from that dot in the center. And one of the ways that you can learn about your chart is just by looking at it, first of all, and just seeing what comes to life within you. Because you can ask your soul to, it's just basically mapping out what you're already creating and what you're projecting out. And there's definitely a correlation between what's going on up there and what's down here, but people assume that the planets are the ones that are doing it to us. It's like up there is the divine and it's all, that the as above is affecting the below, but it's not. It's with a consciousness that's like in between all of that. And I think if you just even just meditate on your chart and just see where your curiosity takes you to, and you can get an astrologer to help you to understand the frequencies that are at play, really, which planets are showing up in your life and why. But the best way to learn about it I think, is to actually draw it yourself, like with your own hands, and actually, or at least if you have just a blank chart and and you can kind of fill in and you can plot your own planets and just feel into the symbolism, and like you just need a few basic keywords to just get started on the archetypal themes. And you can find anything online. There's actually people that teach astrology. I don't teach astrology. I actually just help people to understand how their soul's communicating with them and what the chart's mapping out in terms of because the soul speaks the language of frequency. And that's the way I understand astrology. That's the way I learned it. And so if I was to help you with it, what I would do is I would just show you which frequencies, like how your external world is communicating with you, how yourself as source is communicating with you through your sacred geometry and what's getting activated in your sacred geometry and why things are showing up and it's just like a map of, if you think of your chart as being almost like a holographic kind of radar of like an imprint of all that is from one set of coordinates. But that all that is moving all the time. So it's all that is interacting with itself from your perspective. I don't know if that makes sense, but
Yeah.
it's like a big giant musical box, that's kind of pinging things. And the
Yeah.
things that are standing out and what your channel is picking up is related to what you desire at the human level and the higher aspect of that, which is your soul desire. And so I would reverse engineer through conversation, like what's alive within you right now and how that's being mapped out in your chart and which frequencies are being kind of pinged in your system in your chart right now and how that's informing you about the reality that you're already creating and how you can tap into the unlimited potentiality of these frequencies. That's what I like. And I like to take everything into the quantum space and operate outside of time and physicality and go into the center point and actually, because the chart is alive. It's not like a static thing. It's alive, and when you feel the aliveness of it in your system, a lot of people feel disempowered when they look at their chart. They're like, I don't know all these signs and blah, blah, blah. I don't know what's going on. But what I would do is I would help you to feel like activated when you look at your chart. Like I would, like, even if we only talk about one little sliver and we don't know what anything else means, that little sliver will be meaningful to you because it will be relevant to what's alive in your system. And so, yeah, it's a very different way of doing astrology. But some people, they just want to learn what all the parts are, the nuts and bolts, and how to do this and that and the other. And they're better off to go get a reading from an astrologer if that's what they're looking for. But if you're looking to understand your own sacred geometry and your own map of the universe and what's going on, like beyond, at the multidimensional level, then just, it's like a tool for your imagination. I know you've got a good imagination.
Well,
Um,
that's how I feel too, right? And because I sometimes I think about it like this. You're gonna tell me if this is ridiculous or not. But like if you look at like a word jumble, there's based on what you're feeling in that moment, there's more likely to have certain words pop out than others, right? And it could change the next moment or the next year or whatever, right? The next mood. And I think, that feels sort of what you're pointing to is this is the structure of it, but in your experience, what is it that's communicating to you and just kind of helping the person maybe dig more into it. And so it feels like a new way to go in, like a new perspective to look within from.
yeah, I think just being aware that your thoughts and your emotions, your state of being, but your imagination, it's something, it's literally shaping your reality. Like the imagination is something that's seen as, I know that imagination can go to, delusional and all that. And so it's not to, it can go into the realms of complete illusion and delusion and all of that. But it's the imagination and the thoughts are what literally shapes our reality. And I think that that's one thing I've learned a lot from Neptune. Um, and so you can use your chart, you can interpret, like, there's no one way of interpreting your chart. You're the owner of your chart, so you get to decide what it means because our reality is built on what we believe to be true and the meanings that we've already kind of given things. And we think that those things have that meaning kind of built into them, but they don't. It's just what we've decided collectively and individually that that thing means. But it's all fluid, and it's just when I didn't know this until I lived all my life, over 50 years, not knowing that I was doing that. And but what I discovered was that my thoughts, literally, when I changed my internal world, everything changes on the outside. And I kept, because I was changing so rapidly internally, the external world was shifting to match my new perspective of reality. And I thought I was going bonkers, really.
When was this in time?
This was a few years ago, and actually,
So
interestingly,
recent.
it was when Neptune was coming up to my North Node. I've got my North Node is at the end of Pisces, and my IC in my chart, like the root and everything. So I've got a lot going on at the end of Pisces, and so Saturn was coming up to my North Node, and it was forming a trine with my natal Neptune. And what I started to literally what happened, I already thought I was going nuts before I started seeing the geometry, but you know, uh, have you ever been at a point where nothing makes sense? It's just like nothing makes sense. And I know that that's happening at the collective level for a lot of people right now. But I got to the point where I'm like, either everybody is in psychosis or I am. And I don't think it's me. I really don't. I don't think I'm nuts. I believe this feels really real to me, but I've never ruled out that I could be crazy. But I was
No, it
like,
comes up more than I'm comfortable with because we deal with this topic obviously a lot.
yeah,
And
right.
I mean, I think basically what he was talking about is like, is there a grounding principle in your existence? Do you desire to be a human? And if you do, you're probably all right. Because a
Mhm.
lot of people who don't want to be human or are not, do not want to be attached to this experience. And those, from my experience, are the ones that kind of float off into space and, it can be problematic. But there's something about grounding into like, and a desire to participate in whatever, like what is unique about this. Does that make sense? And
Well,
if
the
you have,
human,
if you can appreciate what makes this experience unique, from our understanding of other experiences that we can't remember, there's a physicality of it, right? There's the densification of the frequency to where we can interact with it in a more physical way, and if there's an appreciation for that, I think you're gonna be fine no matter how crazy your belief structure becomes,
And,
and that's my opinion, and so I don't have fear
yeah.
of that. It doesn't even enter my equation that I'm crazy. No, this is as real as fuck. And what Dale's experience is equally real from his perspective. And I think you alluded to that earlier when we were talking also, is this new energy of just allowing people to have their own goddamn experience. Like
Mhm.
that feels like the old energy is like, no, it needs to be this way. And it's like,
as you say, giving them permission.
Yeah.
right.
And this,
So,
what's real and what's not real is that's a big theme for both Saturn and for Neptune, like about what's real and what's not real and what's imaginary and what's illusion. And there's a lot of that. But the human experience, like the human is like our human avatar is our masterpiece. That's the star of our incarnation. We're not trying to be outside, like we come here to be human, like we come here that's why we incarnate on earth so that we can be human and not to escape the human experience. But when I think that this Saturn Neptune conjunction, especially when, and not even just when they come together, but when they cross the 0 point, like in January and February, for me, it's like taking that human experience to a whole new level where it's like being our soul in human form. Like we get to experience physical human life as our soul and know when we're experiencing the illusion of separation so that it becomes fun. It become like so that our incarnation is an adventure. It's a playground where we get to play with energies, where we know that we're experiencing the illusion of separation from ourselves, but there's a version of us that knows that we are all that is from one perspective right now.
Well, that does sound fun.
Yeah,
so, so, yeah,
We started the fun party to be clear,
yeah.
and we also started a new era, which seems appropriate with all we're talking about. So we're in year zero, starting the fun party, and it's just going to get better and better. It sounds like as we go through the end of this year and into next.
And one thing I want to say is that if in quantum physics, in quantum theory, then every moment is the moment of your death, but it's also the moment you can enter eternity on Earth. And that's really what I feel is the deal to deal message is that if you can just condense your experience into the intensity of that quantum fullness, that quantum wholeness, then you'll never want to leave Earth. I mean, basically, that's how I feel. I mean, every day my enthusiasm for life just like grows exponentially. Because it's just like I've gotten to the point where my mind and my heart are open to the possibilities of infinity, and and infinity goes on forever. And I don't plan on this, but if my actual human avatar dies, then stops functioning. Then I'm not worried about eternity because it's just bring me another day.
yeah, I love it. And these,
Amazing.
I think that these, like what you were saying earlier, like at the beginning of our video, you were talking about all these potentialities all being available for us to choose from. Like we're being presented with all these choices, and I think that that is one of the key themes is the choice and knowing that we did choose to incarnate here to experience this, and time is not something we're trapped in. There's no matrix trapping us. It's like time allows us to experience ourselves as source. Like we have to be able to see who we are and see the magnificence of all that we are.
Well,
So we project
that's
ourselves out.
so basically, it's just like every moment has the potential to be eternity. And if you adopt that attitude, then nothing will ever affect you negatively because you know you're living in God's blessing.
I agree with that, but I also think that we need to have, because like that, our source consciousness, like Neptune, it's almost like our divine feminine, all that is, it needs some kind of tethering. It needs to be anchored
Right.
into, I think, and like we need to be anchored through our root and through our earth star chakra into like the core of the earth and feel that rooting, so that because that's the structure and framework that allows source to expand and to create and to do all this stuff, so we can go out there. But if we're not grounded, then it can get a little bit kind of untamed and a bit.
Well, that's the whole point of Andrew's been my grounding principle. I mean, we've talked about this. You know, basically, I'm still up in space. I've been in space for the last 50 years, and Andrew is sort of like my connection to grounding on Earth, and it's really been like very liberating. And and it's helped with the spontaneity because as I get clear on my grounded mission, the options become less and the path becomes clear.
Yeah, and he's helping me untether a little bit from my rigidity and need to attach every, dream to something that exists, in the concrete and be maybe a little more delusional. And so together we're creating something. I don't, it's something
Yeah,
cool.
I love it. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's definitely a beautiful co-creation between souls that you have. I've seen how you've both just really grown, and um, I've seen pieces that you've brought to each other. So I can't even imagine what it's like to be together in person and to, kind of put this into physical reality as well for you.
Right.
No, that's my game, this is where I get to play is in this and so it's been very engaging and also like pretty stimulating to the point where like you could feel like we need rest, like a lot of energy to shift. But I don't know. I mean, all the things you're pointing to too in astrology seems like it's just like we're not pawns, but we're feeling sort of the frequency of what's in the soup at the moment, and that's the spontaneity is like operating on that kind of frequency to keep moving through it and see what cool stuff happens, right? And so far, I think we're quite sane. That's my opinion. There are ups and downs along that path. It's not straight, but and I always like to encourage you. I don't know. You got this thread too, and I want to beat that out of you. You're very much attached. You're having a human experience. I'm quite confident. You're not crazy. Also quite confident. You're just at the edge of thought, and being at the edge of thought is going to look weird to most people because they're not there. That is my
Yeah,
opinion.
I know. And that's how my soul has been playing the game of illusion of separation. Like I've experienced quite a lot of pretty dense contrast in my life, and I still do. But now at least I feel like I understand what's going on, and it doesn't have to be as loud to show me. But although it's been a little bit loud recently, to be honest, it's but it's all good. I mean, it's like I feel like it's like constant kind of quantum jumping, and I feel like I'm just in a state of integrating a new level of magic all the time. But that can be a little bit bewildering for other people around me and,
It,
you
it,
know, my family and my friends. Like they don't really,
hmm.
they're not, they don't really understand what I'm talking about a lot of the time,
I
but
mean,
they,
I said religion is the worship of Satan on the internet, and I grew up in the church, and all of my family and relatives are still in it. So we get it, right? But the point is like it doesn't matter where they are. There's not static beings either, right? And so there may be a time where it doesn't feel very much in resonance, but I play the long game, and so I can't worry about this moment. It for you. I can work. I'll do it for me and know that it's going to weave itself together however it needs to, over time. And so I don't know. That's been my experience. Yeah, I'm sure. I don't know what my mom thinks of my podcast. She hasn't told me, right? I don't
yeah,
care, to be quite frank. I'm not making it for her. We're making it for us because we believe this conspiracy matters. And we also believe that there's a leadership aspect to this. We're not telling you how to do it. We're saying this is what we've done. And, if it resonates, cool. And if it doesn't, that's also fine, right? But it feels ultimately true. And I think to me, that's what I cling to. It's not the truth is the guiding principle, not everything else.
yeah,
And to bring it full circle to the movie, that was his big thing too. He's like, I don't want anything. I just want truth.
yeah,
And I think that's why I loved it so much.
Right. Well, if I could say one thing about separation, basically, I didn't start my human experience till I separated myself from my delusion of being God. So, all the churches say the problem is separation from God, but my problem was getting separate from God. And so that I could like really experience life through this avatar, and whether you want to call it multiple personalities or schizophrenia or whatever, you know, I've experienced life through this avatar as God for 50 years, and basically that was a distraction to what Dale actually needed to do.
yeah. Well, that was, you needed to perpetuate your game of illusion. You were kind of right what you were saying, but you were only understanding it from through the eyes, like there was a lot of truth threaded into what you were saying, but you didn't have
Right,
the capacity to integrate all of that truth at that time. And so you, because you questioned, that, like, like all of us, like when we question, like if people think that we're telling, when you talk about this stuff like it's your truth, people think that you're telling them how it is for them too, but you're actually just telling them how it is from your perspective. But they don't hear it that way. They hear it as you're telling me that my reality is like that, and it seems like that, and I can understand why they would think that, but it's literally just because it's based on your reality, so it is how it is for you. And so
right,
you kind of are telling them what it is, but you're just telling them that it is from your perspective. But I think that when you start telling people that this is how it is for them, and you're not even interested in their perspective, then that's something else.
right.
But I think that quite often it can be interpreted that way. And
I see it as we're offering a tool to perceive reality. Astrology is a tool to perceive reality for one thing, one example, right? It doesn't mean it's your only tool. Doesn't even mean it's the best tool. It's just it's a tool. And if it's one that resonates with you, it can be very useful. And if it doesn't, maybe it's not so much, right? And I think that's where we're at. We come up with a very neutral perspective. I'm done fixing people, or at least I'm telling myself that so it becomes my reality more and more. But it's because I don't need to save you. That's your job, right? And if I try to do it for you, it's not going to work anyway, right? So to me, it's about holding the frequency that feels true to me and bringing that into the world, and then letting that cause whatever be the cause of my effect, or the
And Andrew, you're always talking about the 4 minute mile, and basically, I feel I did the 4 minute mile of I'm God. And by that experience, I'm not trying to tell anybody how to live or anything, but basically you are a God. And if you want to accept the responsibilities, then you can have like a joyful life. But ultimately you have to come back to yourself.
Mhm.
I felt like a
Yeah.
Dale.
Mhm.
A Dale is when we feel like the energy has sort of resolved itself and we're ready to exit the premises.
Yeah.
Elvis has left the house.
I don't know. Is there a poem or anything you'd like to share with us? I
Well,
think
actually, I had one picked out, but
you lost it, Paige.
I lost the page. But uh, yeah. Well, let me see.
Well, hold on. Before we go there, then, Kat, is there anything, last words, anything you want to leave the Do and Drew conspiracy with on this lovely Thanksgiving day?
Okay. Okay, I'm going to offer you a perspective, a big picture perspective beyond the politics, beyond all of the bullshit of what I think's going on. And this is not fixed, okay? But what I think's going on at the macro level is that we, as one source, one thing, have created this division because it's like the extreme illusion of separation from ourselves. The more we judge other people as being wrong, the more we separate from them. And the more we think that they're on another timeline to us and they're never going to catch up and all this bullshit, the more we're separating from them, the more we're actually increasing the illusion of separation. And I think that what's actually going to happen is that, through different ways, people are going to figure out that we are all one thing. And it might be through the politics and all that. They might just realize that we've all been played and that, this divide is being fueled. And they might perceive that that's external forces that's done that, whatever. There's different levels of looking at this, but they're not all wrong. Like they're all right. But literally, we're one thing. And regardless of how we perceive that, we're still one thing. And so it's just our perspective of that's going to change. And I think that once Saturn moves into Neptune, we're going to know that we're one thing, but we're also going to know our individual sovereign perspective of that one thing. And we're going to have more of a sense of how that is for each and every one of us individually, and claiming ownership at whatever level we want to, whatever our soul is deciding. Some people won't, they'll just continue doing what they're doing and they won't, do any of this stuff. And that's fine. That's what their soul's deciding. But they're not any less source. Everything is source. So that's what I think is going on at the big level, that we're all one thing.
That's the conspiracy in a nutshell, if you ask me. I'll take it. It's amazing.
Yeah, so we'll go double deal. So the first deal was the hardest, and we just got that past that. So this is the second deal. So now everybody can, as I said to Rose last night, instead of walking deal by deal, fly deal to deal. So this is called "This Life is Too Easy," and it's macrocosmic. Mine is a spontaneous outpouring of enthusiasm for the bliss and vitality of this earthly life, reflecting the beauty of God, Lord's grace covering the mattress of humanity with a down comforter of insight into the machinations of big cosmos, where everything is possible but nothing comes of value without a struggle, and the psyche of a beholder of reality, seeking to create order in the chaos of the infinity of the universe that spins like a wheel of galaxy where we exist.
There you go, brother. You
Love it.
love it.
That's a double
Order
deal.
order out of chaos. I love it.
Well,
Thanks,
thank you
guys.
very much, Miss Cat, for joining us on the conspiracy today. I'm so glad we were able to make this happen.
How did it feel being our first guest, Cat?
I love it. I hope that we do this again. This is good.
Definitely.
No, for sure,
I
there's
love
some
talking
things
to you.
that trigger that I want to go dive deeper into, and so there's going to be an opportunity to do that. I
Yeah.
believe that, and we're going to work out all the technical things, and it'll be great. But yeah, thank you again. Thank you for the conspiracy for joining us. We love you all, and we look forward. Hope you're all celebrating some sort of gratitude today. I mean, every day is Thanksgiving to us here at the conspiracy, but kick it up an extra notch just for today.
Enjoy your turkey.
There you go. We love you guys.